It's been a total team domination for Edmonton.
If you're in the NHL, you're going to be one of the best goaltenders in the world.
He's either the GOAT, and he's playing incredible, or he's the GOAT's ass.
When I look at Skinner, I'm rooting for Skinner.
They've beaten teams up, but they also outskill them. It's amazing how they take the will away from their opponent.
And there was people literally crying, touching the Stanley Cup.
I won the Stanley Cup, battered, broken, and bruised. 8 points by McDavid in 2 games, which was crazy, right? Literally, I saw teams wilt, fold, playing against the Florida Panthers. So,
bring it up to LaFontaine. He gets tripped up, gets it to May, and over the line. He's May going in on goal. He shoots.
With Mayday Hockey Podcast.
Welcome everybody to Overtime with Mayday Hockey Podcast. What a week it's been. Now we're getting ready for the playoffs. So the Stanley Cup Final is here. So let's kind of kick it off here with our pod. My name is Rocco Moraglia. I'm one of the co-hosts of this amazing podcast we've created with a couple of buddies of mine. And let's introduce ourselves to them. Maisie, Brad, May, what's going on, buddy?
Doing amazing. I'm doing amazing, Rocco. I can't wait for the final. 2 great teams that are going to face off against each other, but it's incredible the talent that I've seen this year in the playoffs. Obviously, some of these teams that lost had an opportunity to move forward, and we'll get into it and why, and maybe some reasons, and then maybe some scapegoats. But 2 teams. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, playing above their weight class the way they've played, scoring on every player, every forward. It's been a total team domination for Edmonton, and the Florida Panthers. Obviously, Stanley Cup champions, reigning. These guys. They've beaten teams up, but they also outskill them. It's amazing how they take the will away from their opponent. I've seen it happen to 2 teams. I saw it in Carolina, and I saw it happen to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Literally, I saw teams wilt, fold, playing against the Florida Panthers. So it's going to be a great final. I want to think that Connor McDavid's going to win his first Stanley Cup. I'm not going to bet against him, but I certainly can't bet against the Florida Panthers. They look really, really good.
Absolutely. The 2 best teams are in the Cup Finals again this year. All right, Chrissy, let's go to you, my guru of stats, buddy. Tell me what you've been up to, and then we'll jump right into this. Tell me some stuff. Give me some detail.
I've just been hanging out and playing some golf and mourning our Leafs, but I just looking at the bracket here. It's funny, right? They always say the first round is the toughest one to get out of, and I'm not saying the games, but the series, the individual games. But when you look at the series by games, it just, as the playoffs have progressed, the series have become less competitive as far as, 7-game series. There was 2 7-game series in the first round, and there was 1 in the second round. I mean, the Oilers, we forget it was so long ago. They lost those first 2 games to the Kings. They were down 0-2, and they are 12-2 since then. And Florida won 4 games to 1 against Tampa. The Leafs took them to 7, and then they were 4 games to 1 against Carolina. And I'm sure we'll get into this too. Carolina's record in the conference final is astonishingly bad. And Brad and I live here in Toronto, and I cannot imagine what the narrative would be if our beloved Leafs were 1-16 in conference final games over the last 3 years. So good for them for getting there, but then they've just completely got wiped out every year they've been there, which is surprising. I actually thought they were going to win this series, and then the individual games might have been close, but they were swept 2 years in a row, and then they lost this one 4 games to 1. So it should be interesting in the finals, that's for sure. And again, for both these teams to get back here, that is a lot of hockey. We're talking these teams have played over 300 games in the last 3 years. It's astonishing.
Show your logo. We would like to thank our sponsor and one of our favorite promo guys, Matt over at Show Your Logo. If you ever need any promotional items, hats, t-shirts, baskets, whatever you need, this guy has got it. Promotional items is the place. Reach out to Matt, my promo guy, That's matt@showyourlogo.com. It's MATT@showyourlogo.com. It's crazy. To that note and point that you made regarding, the Hurricanes in this last round, would every Toronto fan taking a win over Florida to lose in that way in the next round? I suspect they probably would, right? Just to get one level deeper. But I digress. Now we're talking about the two best teams in hockey right now, right? So let's kick it off, boys. Maisie, what do you think? Who's going to win? Give me some details. What do you think the concerns are? Where do you think we're going to end up? We got two home games starting Wednesday. Exciting. In fact, I looked at tickets. I thought, wow, maybe I think I have a client in Edmonton. I want to see if I can connect and maybe go to a hockey game. The nosebleeds are like $4,000.
Yeah, it's crazy. Hey, Rock, there's no question Canadians are going nuts. We're in Toronto, and there is a flip-flop where your Leaf fans, your Senator fans, your Montreal Canadian fans, they're going to cheer for the Canadian team. So all year long, teams are not cheering for the Edmonton Oilers, or fans aren't. But I think en masse, this great country of ours is going to back, obviously, the blue and orange. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Corey Perry. What an unbelievable story this is. Getting to the Stanley Cup Final 6 times. Bunch of different teams. He won his first Stanley Cup appearance. I was lucky enough to be on his team as well, 2007 with Anaheim. And Corey's got back there a number of times and hasn't won. I want, there's so many storylines for the Edmonton Oilers to win their Stanley Cup. Certainly with Connor McDavid, you looked at Sidney Crosby. He lost to the Detroit Red Wings in the Stanley Cup Final. The next year they come back and they beat the Detroit Red Wings. This is the same situation here for Edmonton. They lose to Florida in Game 7. They have an opportunity to come back and win. You know what? They got history on their side. I think McDavid, he's going to win a Stanley Cup. This guy's the best player that's ever played. He's put his team, as much as his teammates have been amazing, and they really have. Stuart Skinner stepped up, and he's been beautiful. My concern is Stuart Skinner, and it's not necessarily on him, but the goaltending or defense of the Edmonton Oilers in the final, because they've proven that they haven't been able to keep it together for lengthy, long periods, where they sometimes go back to being human. But Florida, I've just watched them beat up teams and take the will away from their opponent. I can't imagine that happening against Edmonton with the ilk and the players that Edmonton has. But so anyways, get off the fence, Brad. I think the Florida Panthers win the Stanley Cup. I want the Edmonton Oilers to win, though. And just my head's telling me that Alexander Barkov is the best defensive two-way centerman in the National Hockey League. And if anybody's going to shut down the big boys, certainly even strength with the Edmonton Oilers, it's Barkov, Ekblad, Seth Jones. They do it by committee.
Nice. How many games do you think?
I want it to go 7. I love it. I want it to go 7 like it did last year. And I want something wonderful to happen. I want McDavid to go off and score 5 goals and just stake his claim, in the history books of hockey. Connor McDavid has to be right there front and center. He's breaking records. He's doing things, but he's got to win the Stanley Cup. Or certainly that's what the hockey gods would want, or certainly, to actually bestow him with this honor of the best player in the world. The Stanley Cup's a part of it. I want Edmonton, but I think Florida, they're just too good, too deep, too tough to play against in a 7-game series.
Yeah, they're like waves, right? They just consistently come at, and it's how you take it. I mean, over a 7-game series or under that kind of pressure, people make mistakes, right? I mean, that one mental mistake at one crucial moment could be the deciding factor. And you talked about Skinner, and I think he's upped his game. And if I looked at the stats from last year on Skinner versus Bob, the stats were better for Skinner, believe it or not. But he did not make that last save that Bob does, right? Or that crucial moment save, and he has. I mean, I tell you, since in that Dallas series, he stood on his head. He's a big man, and he doesn't move like a lot of the smaller goalie, tall, but like a little more agile, thinner goalies do. He's just a big guy, right? And
You know what, Rocco? For whatever it is, he seems like he has a great personality, and I cheer for the Stuart Skinner though.
totally,
I want him. I think he's a cool guy. Like, and it seems like his
totally.
teammates want him to do well too. Like he's got something about him, his personality, that makes him a more desirable goaltender than just him being the goalie. I like every storyline with the Edmonton Oilers. I think that Florida Panthers, the way they came back and beat the Toronto Maple Leafs and the way they dominated Carolina, I'm bullish on the Florida Panthers.
Yeah. No. Well, why wouldn't you be if if you're betting money on it? It's the team who's won the cup has a better chance of repeating it, right? They get it. They know what it takes. You've seen what they've done, right? Totally. Yeah. I'm with you. Chris, what do you got? Tell me your feeling. Are you still with the scar tissue Toronto Maple Leaf stuff? Or you okay?
Always, I'll tell you, I jump on a few things that Brad said there. He piqued my interest with a few things. Judge me if you will. I will not be cheering for the Oilers. As I said, I think the whole season should end when the Leafs are eliminated. I think the whole league should just shut down and we'll restart next year when we have a chance to win it. I do want the Leafs to be the next Canadian team to win the cup. So secretly, the terrible part of me will be rooting against the Oilers. However, I am going to take the Oilers in this series. A couple things Brad said there about McDavid being the best player in the world, and I was thinking about this earlier today. McDavid is in that rarefied air. He's not just the best player in the league at the current time. I personally think optically, he's the greatest hockey player ever to wear a pair of skates. I don't think anyone has made it look the way he makes it look. And whatever your sport is, that guy always gets it done. Michael Jordan, yeah, he won 6, but he definitely won 1. When Wayne won 1 and Mario won 1. Patrick Mahomes. When you're in that rarefied air where McDavid is, that guy never gets shut out of championships. And Draisaitl, I think that's the equivalent of giving Patrick Mahomes Saquon Barkley or giving prime LeBron James, prime Steph Curry. When you have these two guys, and hey, McDavid is hungry. We all saw that Amazon footage last year, and this guy wants it so bad. And the other thing is, it was kind of like I said last time, it's the old Barry Sanders thing. You can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. I understand that Florida shut him down in game 6 and 7 of the series last year. Do any of us see a scenario where McDavid is going to go pointless in any of these games?
No.
I don't see it. So right off the hop, you're down 1 bagel, right? You're losing 1-0 when the game started because he's going to set something up or score it himself every game. So I just think it's fate, it's destiny. Guys like him always get it done. You talked about Corey Perry too, Brad. If I would have told you the Oilers are going into the finals and Corey Perry has more goals than Connor McDavid, I wonder how Oiler fans would have thought about that. They would have thought either, wow, Corey Perry is on fire or McDavid got hit by a bus. It is astonishing the depth that they have. We talked about it on other shows. Just, yes, it's those two guys, but that secondary, it's barely a second tier when you have, Nugent Hopkins. He went first overall. It might not have been the strongest draft, but you don't go first overall because you live close to a rink. You have Evander Kane. You have, I know Hyman's out now, but Corey Perry's on fire. They just have a lot going on in the wings, and there's of the 5 leading scorers in the playoffs right now, 4 of them are Oilers. And I know Bouchard can go for a skate in his own end sometimes. He's 5th in the playoffs in points. So, I think he's creating more on the offensive end than problems he's creating in his own end. So, and Skinner's just a big dude. I think big guys just got a better chance of getting hit by the puck. It's funny, I saw Bob in the locker room the other day with his gear off. Wow, astonishingly skinny guy. Not that has anything to do with that. I just thought that was weird. I like the Oilers only because I think, like I said, McDavid's that guy. He's Gretzky, he's Jordan, he's Mahomes. Those guys always get it done. I read something today, though, boys. I will tell you this. This actually blew my mind. So from 1980, and Trottier played in the finals in 1980. Barkov's playing in the finals this year. So for 45 years, for 45 straight years, there's been someone playing in the finals that was a teammate of Jaromir Jagr.
I heard that yesterday. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's the best.
For
I never heard that.
45 years, straight years. It's astonishing.
Wow, I like that stat. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't like Edmonton here, but yeah, I mean, I think they're going to win because McDavid he's just going to put the whole thing on his back, and he's just going to make sure that he's going to go and refuse to lose mode. I mean, hey, Florida too. We're talking about Canada getting behind the Oilers. Florida's very easy to root against, right? They have a lot of guys you'd like to punch in the face if the opportunity presented itself. So that will also unite the country here as well.
I think with what's going on, the country doesn't need any more uniting, boy. I tell you, I've never seen more Buy Canada stuff since my last trip out there ever. I've never seen that. Like, I've seen it in the US, Buy USA, Made USA. I have never seen that like all over in Canada. As a proud Canadian, I love that. I mean, don't trend on me. And here it comes.
Well, it's funny you say that, Rocco. I don't know if you probably noticed the same thing, Brad. Like, so now all the digital boards on TV, it's all regional, right? The digital advertising. And I mean, if you're watching a game here in Canada, almost every ad, the company is saying made in Canada or assembled in Canada, produced in Canada. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Rocco. All the digital ads are focusing on that regionally, at least.
Yeah, no, it's maybe challenging times that we're in, but a couple of things to your point. Right? Look, I love the fact that the Oilers are deeper than they were last year. Like, no doubt about it. Their back six are stronger. They seem to be stronger. I mean, I'm concerned that Hyman's out, but you got Kane. I think, given Skinner his ability, he can play goal, man. He's a great goaltender, not even good goaltender. He's a great goaltender. So is Bob, right? I mean, what did Gretzky say? I would bet everything I have in one hockey game, I'm going to have Grant Fuhr in net for me. So if you feel that and you believe that, there are guys on the team that, love the two goalies that they have. I'm sure they could have traded for somebody if they wanted to. Skinner's a good goalie. So granted, knowing what we know with Skinner, he's going to have a bad goal. He's going to have a potentially a bad game. The problem is we've got 4 games, right? We got 7. You got to win 4, right? But I like Kane. I like the fact I'm concerned that Hyman's out. I like that they separated McDavid and Draisaitl. I like that. It just expands out a little bit. That first line, second line. But all in all, I mean, what are they calling the Edmonton Oilers arena? Right? It's Rexall Center Place, but what do they call it? Sweat Dome, Scream Dome, Terror Dome, right? So it's the Terror Dome. Like, I mean, now that is cool. So look, a lot of things have been going on, and I think that it is time that the Edmonton Oilers, jumped on that saddle and ride that pony, man. Just get there and get it done. Bob is going to be great. Matthew Tkachuk is going to do what he does. You've got so many agitators on that, but you got a great team. That team was built to win cups. They are built and designed. So, there's that. I wouldn't bet any money on this series because I'm terrified of losing it, right? But they're 2 good teams, the 2 best teams, right?
Rocco, you said about Hyman being out, which is a big loss, but the same game that he went out, that's when Ekholm came back. So you lose Hyman, but you get your best D. Yeah, I'm just looking at their playoff scoring. I mean, they just, and I think that, Brad, you can speak to this. Like we said, we're over 100 games in. That's a lot of hockey. And I think, having guys that have been scratched and then putting them back in is just fresh. Like, I think there's a lot to be said for that. And, Arvidsson, he's been in the press box for 5 games, and then he comes back in, and he's got a little bit to jump. Kapanen's the same thing. I mean, he's been in a tracksuit for more than half the games. Skinner, too. I mean, these guys don't get out of their running shoes, and then they come in, and they're fresh, and they got a little jump, and it makes a difference. They just, they have a lot of pros up and down that lineup on the wings.
Yeah, they do. First round picks. Look at Kapanen, good player. He's got good speed. He's got a terrible flow. his haircut to what he has, but he's definitely. I recognize him when he's on the ice and he's moving. Jeff Skinner comes in relief of Zach Hyman, scores a goal in his first game back. He's played twice. He scores, which was great for Jeff Skinner. It's his first goal in his career in the playoffs. It's amazing to hear this guy scored hundreds and hundreds of goals in the NHL, and this is his first crack into playoffs, which is nuts. But the other guy that's played very well leading into the throughout the playoffs is Adam Henrique. Adam Henrique lost in the Stanley Cup Finals when he was with the New Jersey Devils. This guy is hungry, right? He wants to win. This is his next opportunity, which I think is really cool for Adam Henrique. I just looked throughout their lineup. Now, I have a question for you guys, and maybe this leads me back to the Florida Panthers. And I want to be all in with Edmonton, and I really do believe they can win. But tell me who the best defenseman in the series is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's well, I think the best two defensemen in the series are Ekblad and Jones, right?
I got a third that I think is maybe more important than Ekblad and Jones, and I might be wrong. Is Mikkola? This guy looks like Victor Hedman to me. He's a big dude. He plays physical. He's got great feet, and he's a difference maker. So you're looking at three defensemen in Florida, and they're more than that, but three like big names, guys that are actually that can log the minutes, and certainly the more hockey, the stronger they'll get. Those three guys. Edmonton, they've got Bouchard. I like their back end, but it's not the Florida Panthers. It's not as deep as Florida. And the way Florida can play and wear you down, I have to imagine it's going to be a grinding series. Obviously, there's going to be flights back and forth. If it goes 6 or 7 games, fatigue. I don't know if fatigue matters. I know they'll get an extra day of rest and they sleep in 1,000 thread count beds and like 5-star hotels, and they're eating off China. Like, I don't think it's travel like it once was, but I like that Mikkola. He's my favorite player on the Florida Panthers after watching them this long. I didn't realize how good and how valuable he is.
And Rocco, you talked about Bob's numbers in the playoffs last year. We forget that series. Yeah, it went 7, but Florida got up 3-0 on them, right? And then I'm just looking here. So Florida was up 3-0. It was looking like a sweep. The Oilers come back and win Game 4, 8-1. Then they won Game 5, 5-3, and they won Game 6, 5-1. So I believe Stolarz was popping in and out there games 4 through 6. And then Bob he definitely got it back on the rails for Game 7 when they went 2-1. So that was an odd series last year. Like, yes, it went 7, but, for a long time there, it didn't feel close until it got close, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
8 points by McDavid in 2 games, which was crazy, right?
You know what? To play consistently at that high level, especially in goaltending, as we talked about, it's 99% mental. They all have skills. I mean, obviously, they're at that level. You're in the NHL. You're going to be one of the best goaltenders in the world, bar none, right? You're a professional. The mental aspect. I mean, you go back to the Vancouver Canucks Boston Bruins back in 2011. Right. I mean, that was a mental game, right? Where, goaltenders really won that series, right? And you go home, you'd have a great series. You go on the road, you get slaughtered, right? So, that mental aspect is key. I think Bob is unique that way. I mean, he's a great goaltender. He's an odd duck. He's got, but every goalie is probably odd. I mean, but, when I look at Skinner, I'm rooting for Skinner, right? The other guys have won a Stanley Cup. I'm rooting for like the Oil. I'd love to see, 79 when the Oilers came in to existence in the NHL. I remember a very good friend of mine, one of my best buddies. His dad was always hockey coaching and taking care of us, driving us to 6 a.m. practices. And I remember when the Oilers came in that first year, and they weren't great. They weren't bad, but they had Gretzky, and I remember him saying, he says, "Yeah, these guys are going to win the Stanley Cup." And I thought, no. and thinking back of how teams get into existence in the NHL, it was consistently, it was going to be Montreal. It was, for X amount of years, Boston was always in there. So you think they're never going to be that. And within 5 years, they won a Stanley Cup, right? So, and they actually right now hold that record, and the next team is Vegas, right? So, yeah, I'm hoping for the boys. I think I'm hoping for Canada. Obviously we've got hockey's an international game, but we have a Canadian team that's repping all of us, right? So I'd like to see that kind of happen.
This
So
is year 10 for McDavid too, right? So
what's that?
I believe this is year 10 for McDavid too, right? So
yeah.
Time. Not it's not running out on him, but he's right in the wheelhouse. The way I think you're right about the Patrick Mahomes, the Tom Brady's, the Michael Jordans, the Wayne Gretzky's, Mario Lemieux, Sidney Crosby. These guys get it done. Alex Ovechkin wins the Stanley Cup. I mean, it's just a matter of time. I'd be shocked if Connor McDavid doesn't win. I'd be shocked. And by the way, it's not just him. The crazy part is there's a lot of good players on the Edmonton Oilers, and they've actually built their team kind of by subtraction in some ways. After last year, they let some players walk and they got rid of players, but and management has changed their whole structure above, with Stan Bowman coming in and taking over and being a part of this. You know what, there's a lot of touch points with the Edmonton Oilers. It'll be exciting to see what happens here in the next 2 weeks. But Stuart Skinner, this guy, he's still on his head, right? He's had he's had shutouts, and this guy's kind of like it's all or nothing, it seems. I mean, he's either the GOAT, and he's playing incredible, or he's the GOAT's ass, and it's been that way. And I like this guy. I really do. However, if we go back, and Rocco, you brought it up, Vancouver, Boston, 11, right? Or 10, 2010?
Yeah, 2011. I thought 10, 11. Yeah.
2010, 11. If Vancouver wins the Stanley Cup, Roberto Luongo wins the Conn Smythe, and he had 2 shutouts in the Stanley Cup Final, and he was incredible. But because they didn't win, people were quite angry at Vancouver because they let that series get away on them. Tim Thomas, talking about just the grittiness and the war of attrition, Tim Thomas won the battle of the words in the interviews for sure. He had a personality, and he was basically, on his own, beating to his own drum. But Tim Thomas was incredible. And I wonder, in that series, I found myself cheering for Tim Thomas because of the personality of the player, of the goalie, more than Roberto. And I'm a Vancouver Canuck. I find myself this way. Bobrovsky's sick. He's such a good goaltender, but I like the personality in Skinner. I'd love to see this guy win.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's just one of those things you can't help root for an underdog, and not that the Oilers are an underdog in any sense, but they were in the finals last year. But on the Skinner side, I'm cheering for this guy. He's one of 6, probably fighting for food, but judging by his size, he was able to get to some. Right.
I think last year, I think last year in Alberta they ran out of beer. They ran out of beer to sell in the province. Something like that. It was crazy. Alberta was going nuts.
How do you not love a province that drinks all the booze, right? I just love that, right? And then on another side, I want Kane to win. I think he hadn't played one game.
That's
jumps into the Stanley Cup playoffs, and the guy looks like he hasn't missed a beat. I think he's playing better than he's played before. He adds the grittiness, the toughness. And I'm cheering for him. He's gone through a lot. I mean, I'd love to see him win a cup, right? I mean, there's so many of those cool storylines, Maisie, that you talked about, and Chris, and you're right, that glorified air. We tend to think, well, you can't achieve greatness until you've won that cup. All these accolades and things that you do, at the end of the day, McDavid's going to be one of the greatest hockey players that ever put on a pair of skates, bar none. Do we want him to win a cup? Yes. Do people need that. Oh, well, he couldn't get into the, not talking about McDavid, but talking about others. Oh, he could have got into the Hockey Hall of Fame if he won the cup. We put so much into it, but it is such a big deal for so many of us. I mean, I was at the, a couple of years ago, I was at the Hockey Hall of Fame, and there was people literally crying, touching the Stanley Cup, like crying, and it is like, moved to tears, right? Because of a trophy, an inanimate object, right? So it means a lot to a lot of us, but I'd love to see the Oil just get it done. Get her done. Like they say in Alberta in the oil fields, get her done.
Well,
Yes.
It's funny about, now this is the fact that these two teams have been here 3 years in a row kind of contradicts what I'm about to say. Although, as I said earlier, we're talking 300 games in the last 3 years, and every time a team has been eliminated or always eliminated, what's the first thing you hear is, oh, this guy was dealing with this, this, and this. I mean, there are a lot of guys who've played 300 games in the last 3 years. It's very impressive that they're still going. But as a bigger conversation about legacy, I do think that will change across all sports, particularly the NHL, because it started off as such a small league. And then, when they got into expansion, it was incredibly top heavy. And as we've talked about on other episodes, the path to the final was a lot easier. You can say what you want, it just was. I mean, our beloved Maple Leafs made the playoffs with 52 points. And won a round. 52 points was dead last in the NHL this year. So I think that the days of a guy, teams winning 4 in a row like the Islanders and the Oilers and the Habs did back in the day, I think those days are never going to come back. So McDavid will get one. Like we said, he's 10 years in. So if he gets this one, he'll get one. I mean, I don't think he's Marino and Barkley. Like I said, I think he's Mahomes and Jordan. But just 20 years from now, I don't think we're going to be able to say, oh, well, this guy won 4 cups, but what was the era, right? Like, I just think it is a lot different. Gretzky is, even Sid. I mean, Sid's got what? He's got 2, right? I believe he's got 2, not 3, right?
He's got 3.
Oh, he's got 3. Yeah. So, but again, like, Gretzky's got 4, Bossy's got 4. I mean, Ken Dryden played like an hour in the league and he's probably got 5. Like, that's just the way it was. And I just don't think that's going to happen anymore, just because I think it's an absolute war of attrition to get to the finals and through it. And so I think winning one as time goes on will be a lot more impressive than it seems sitting here today.
Yeah, I like that. And I think you're right, Chris. By the way, 32 teams, and it's incredibly competitive. Like, it really is. Now, the cream of the crop has separated itself. There's no question. Of the teams that remained and played deeper, the best teams obviously get to play more hockey in a season, or certainly in the second half. And when I think of Florida, the hard part, and I won a cup with Anaheim, and we came back to next season. I find it really amazing that they've actually kept themselves going. They made 2 amazing trades at the deadline, along with other smaller moves, but bringing in Marchand and Seth Jones. I mean, what a coup! And he had, and I say they had Bill Zito. They had the other teams pick up most of the salary. It's crazy, right? Chicago ate some money on that. Boston ate some money on Marchand's deal, and you got 2 of these incredible players to come in to help an already loaded, solid team. But the ability to actually go back to back, because you're humbled by winning. And I think one nice thing about being a hockey player is you don't want to rub it in other people's faces. There is a real honor and a respect to the game and to the players you play against. But the only way you win the Stanley Cup is you have to be cocky. You have to be overly confident. And you want to go out and not only beat, but you want to embarrass the other guy across from you. And after winning and being humbled, I'll give you a quick story. We went to the White House 6 months, or probably it was longer than that, 6-7 months after we had won, and which was the following season. We went to the White House. We met George Bush, and we're in the White House, and there was our whole organization from top down, from ownership all the way down to the trainers and our coaches and the players. 3 guys of those 35 or 40 individuals actually brought their Stanley Cup ring on that road trip to wear for a photo opportunity. I would have thought that all 40 guys would have brought their rings, although we were on a long trip and nobody wanted to carry it and obviously have that responsibility. Guys didn't want to bring their rings because they don't want to, first of all, stand out and look like a jackass, look like, I'm the hero and I'm going to be one of those guys. And it was more because of the respect for their teammates and their own place, that they don't want to be considered cocky. So we didn't wear our rings. And I think that was a massive mistake. I think you have to believe that you smash the team that you're playing against. I think that you have to believe that you're much better, or certainly you can be better on any given night than the other team. And when you're humbled a little bit by winning, it's awfully hard to get back to that same compete level, because you recognize and you now know with history how hard and how focused you had to be to win it. It takes a big concentration of the group to actually keep this rolling. And that's why I find it amazing that the teams that could come back and win multiple championships or even play for them. So seeing Florida in the final 3 years in a row speaks volumes to the character in that locker room. Speaks volumes to the character right from the top, from Vinny Viola, their owner, who was a West Point graduate, an incredible, military friggin' mind, setting the parameters and the structure and the culture in that locker room. It comes from the top down. And when you look at other teams that don't make it, never get there, they've never been able to develop that type of culture.
Mayday, let me ask you this along those same lines. I mean, what did you think of Maurice basically just bullying Brind'Amour out of the handshake?
See, it's funny. I don't like any of that.
Me neither.
But when Paul Maurice, I do like his comment that, listen, we're not the players. We didn't battle. Let the players, they were on the ice. Let them, have their pleasantries or whatever. Coaches should be separate. I don't believe that to be true 1 second. You show up to training camp, there's 40 guys in the locker room. There's 8 trainers or more. There's doctors, there's coaches, there's players, there's a whole black ace group, which is what we call the extra players that are around a playoff team, called up from the minors, some of your young prospects, whatever, and whoever that is. It takes all of you together to actually get to that point. I don't like the idea that you didn't shake hands or you didn't want
Well,
to.
and if you don't
I think
want to
it's
do
full
it,
of shit. I think it's full of shit too. That this is an excuse, whatever it is. I don't understand it at all. But I do like Paul Maurice, and I think he's actually a wizard, and he's always 1 or 2 steps ahead of whoever he's coaching against.
well, exactly to your point, Brett. Well, first of all, I mean, Maurice is, if there's a bigger media darling in the coaching world in the NHL, and hey, good for him. He is going to go down as a Stanley Cup winner, perhaps multiple times. He's also he's lost more games than anyone in NHL history, which is a testament to how long he's been in the league. But to your point, Brad, I mean, if I'm Brind'Amour, I'm actually surprised Brind'Amour didn't do it. Because if I'm Brind'Amour, I'm going, okay, well, if that's your thing, don't go in the line. But fuck you, I'm going to go in the line because that's what I want to do. You do what you want to do, and I'm going to do what I want to do. The look on Brind'Amour's face, I could totally get with. I mean, Maurice should have just stayed in his lane there, in my opinion. But like I said, that's why he's got a ring, and I'm sitting here with you guys.
Yeah, and I think honestly, for Rod Brind'Amour, at that time, I don't know. Is this the time to call somebody out? He was probably shocked. I still don't understand the whole, like, the backstory. Maybe there isn't one, and I haven't got any good explanations. But Rod Brind'Amour has played this game.
Mm-hmm.
He played it harder, and he was more prepared than most that have ever played the game. His conditioning, and he's won the Stanley Cup. Rod, you do what you do. Who gives a shit what the other guy's going to do? Although losing and being humbled by that, I'm not so sure. I think he was forced, and it was unfortunate, because I
Well,
think it
I know.
took away an opportunity for him and maybe interaction with players. And you know what? It's a moment where sometimes the toughest moments are when you show your true colors and your true worth. And like, adversity builds character, and I think it reveals character in this case. And I don't know if I like Paul Maurice for that. I really don't, but I
Well,
don't understand it.
that's why I was so shocked Brind'Amour didn't do it. That would be like me telling you not to do something and then you going like, how could I bully you in anything? You know what I'm saying? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Brind'Amour is going to be looking at Maurice going, this pencil neck is telling me what to do. I'm fucking Rod Brind'Amour, for Christ's sake.
And I do believe though, and I put this conversation, and I don't even know, but in the same conversation with John Tortorella. And John Tortorella was winning and he won a Stanley Cup with Tampa. And I love it. And I think they were playing against the Philadelphia Flyers in the conference final, I believe. If it wasn't Philly, it was in one of those rounds. But he basically said, listen, it's our job to get these guys prepared to play. It's the players that win games and championships. As a coach, get the hell out of the way and let the players play at that moment. We've prepared them, let them play. It's their game. And I love that about John Tortorella, where, listen, at the end of the day, we all recognize who's the leader of a team and the coach and sets the parameters of all of it. But the guys that actually have the ability to delegate responsibility, I really respect and appreciate those guys. When John Tortorella is like, listen, it's the players' game. Ask them, keep me out of it. I'm just the coach. I love that humility. I like that about John Tortorella. And maybe I like that about Paul Maurice. I don't like the fact that this happened and was kind of made for a conversation about, did they do the right thing? Rod Brind'Amour, should he have done it? Should he have not? Like, I don't like that at all. I think tradition is beautiful, and tradition has always had coaches in the handshake line. I know every time I lost, I did win one, thank goodness, but I lost many series in the playoffs, and shaking the coach's hand on the other team was part of it. I don't if I didn't shake the coach's hand, I don't know, maybe it has nothing to do with it, with my memory or any player's memory, but I think that's a special moment. I think every player, and I think the trainer should be involved in it too, to be quite honest with you, because you're part of the team.
Absolutely. I think if you guys have all gone to war, I mean, you're fighting that. Whether you're the general or the soldier, I mean, the guys on the ice, it's part of that process. So a couple of things on that. I love the comments. Maisie, I totally agree. I don't think it was, Maurice's place to say that, but if he feels that way, then don't do it. And you're right. Brind'Amour should just do whatever the hell he wants. I mean, I think coaches belong in that lineup. Sure, they didn't play, but doesn't matter. They are there. And then, Chris, real quick on a comment, you haven't won a Stanley Cup, but there's a guy in this podcast that has. So you're here with us with a guy with a Stanley Cup ring, man. That is pretty cool, right there.
Yeah. Hey, listen, this proximity is as close as I'm going to get to winning a Stanley Cup. Is the proximity that I have to Mayday right now in the top left of my screen. So it's sort of like, yeah. I'm 2 boxes removed from winning a Stanley Cup.
BioThrive, whether you're dealing with low energy, stubborn weight gain, or just feeling like you're not yourself anymore, it's time to take control like I did. Our friends over at biothrive.com are a real deal when it comes to hormone optimization. They've got personalized plans to help you get the energy back, boost your performance, and even shed those extra pounds. I'm looking lean, as are the boys on the team are, without gimmicks or guesswork. Head over to biothrive.life.com. That's BIOTHRIVE life.com right now. Check out for a free consultation. And because you're listening to the Mayday podcast, mention this podcast, score $100 off your first appointment and treatment. That's $100. I said it right. BioThriveLife.com. And to the point, Maisie, do you wear your ring? I've never seen it. I've never seen you wear it. Do you feel the same way? Was that kind of the message that you feel, that ring? Because I have a college ring that I wear, and I wear it all the time. Usually when I travel, but I'm not wearing it today. But if I'm hopping on a plane or traveling somewhere, I'll wear it on the flight for some reason. I have no idea, like it's going to protect me. I don't know if the plane goes down or something stupid. Maybe that's how they're going to identify my finger or body or something. I don't know. But back to you, Maisie, on that. What do you think? Why don't you wear it? I've never seen you wear
it. I don't wear it. I don't have. I'll tell you the reason why, but there's nothing more to it. I think it's one of the most beautiful Well, certainly it's my most prized piece of jewelry, 100%. I don't wear jewelry. I don't wear necklaces. I don't wear bracelets. I don't wear rings. So that's why I don't wear my Stanley Cup ring ever, is because I don't like wearing jewelry. But this ring is absolutely amazing. It's big. It's a beautiful thing. However, it's a little bit cumbersome and uncomfortable when you go out and wear it. Now, when I'm in an environment, and I'm often in environments with fans and just the fanfare, the charitable elements wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, and it would be a great thing to actually have, to actually share with and share those experiences and stories with different people. I just don't want to lose it. Number one. I talk about humility, and and frankly, it's not because I'm a good guy that I don't wear my ring, but if I'm ever around other hockey players, I recognize, first of all, I played a long time and I earned it. No question. I played over 1,000 games, played it really hard. I fought a lot of tough guys, and I battled injuries, and probably 2 or 3 years of my career or possible career was spent on the shelf, in the IR and from surgeries and recovery and everything else. I just don't want to ever upstage somebody by wearing my ring in front of them. And if I ever walk around and bumped into an Ottawa Senator who, imagine, they had a hell of a year in 2006 and 7. They went to the finals. They got beat by us. But I can't imagine being one of them, that they deserve to win or had the opportunity to win as much as myself or anyone else. And I respect them because I really couldn't imagine getting to the Stanley Cup Final once in my career and not winning, because I never had another chance at it. So I just pay in my own little way is the respect of the players that played before me, against me, and the guys that are still playing. That, you know what, just because I won it, I got traded there at the trade deadline, which was an amazing acquisition for myself to get traded from Colorado to Anaheim to an already good team, to be a part of it and not screw up their mission. So all of the above, it was the greatest. But I know I won. I have a ring to show for it. I just don't need to carry it out in public, and I probably should sometimes, but I'm afraid to lose it or drop it. And the other reason why I don't is, on my 1,000th game, a friend of mine went to take a picture of my Stanley Cup ring, um, ironically between her boobs, and it slipped, and it went through her dress and hit the marble floor and shattered. So the diamonds in the Stanley Cup on the front, or the faceplate of my Stanley Cup ring, broke. I say shattered. It's not like it was in a million pieces, but there's diamonds that were left uncovered because we couldn't find them on the floor or whatever. And I've never fixed it. True story. That happened in 2009. So what's that? That's 16 years ago. And I've never fixed my ring. So it actually sits in the case with the broken elements of it. That's another reason why I don't, because I don't want it to break if I ever wore it out. But here's my thinking, and my wife thinks I'm stupid, and it's time for me to scrap it and move forward. But she thinks that, listen, go get it fixed. You can still tell the story, but you should have a great ring. And my thing is, I won the Stanley Cup battered, broken, and bruised. I was wearing a cast on my hand, along with 16 years of trauma to get there. That was my story, and my Stanley Cup ring has its own story. And you know what? It's my story to tell, and no one else's. So I've never fixed it.
Okay, I had a question, but now this leads to another question. I mean, so this friend in question, this story, in the moment, and maybe even to this day, she must have just felt terrible.
Terrible, terrible.
I would never forgive myself.
Yeah, well, you know what? So it was not a mistake. Not even a mistake. It was an accident.
Yeah.
It was an accident. It was the night I played my 1,000th game for the Toronto Maple Leafs. We went to the Air Canada Club, which I think is called the Scotia Bank Club. Help me out with the name of that little bar restaurant down by the locker rooms. I think it was the Air Canada Club at the time.
It was, yeah, it was.
We had a party, my family flew in for it, my wife and kids, my mom and dad were there. aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, friends. And so we had about 50 to 100 people in the Air Canada Club after celebrating my 1,000th game in the NHL, which was really, really neat. And I had my ring, and my brother asked me to take it off. So I took my ring off. I passed it to my brother, Daryl, who in turn started showing my ring around to everybody, and people were taking pictures of it. And all I know is I wasn't looking at them, but I was in a conversation. I'm looking at myself in the phone right here. So I'm talking to whoever's in front of me, and behind me, there's a lot of noise. You're in this, there wasn't music necessarily, but there was a lot of noise, right? Just being in a facility like that. And all of a sudden it went dead quiet. And when it went dead quiet, I was like, uh-oh, something happened behind me. And I was afraid to turn around because I didn't know, because it was eerie. And sure enough, that's what happened. And the ring hit the floor. Everybody was down looking for it. Now, the whole faceplate of the Stanley Cup ring was literally separated from the actual setting of the ring itself. So, yeah, it was not good. Anyways, and it was just an accident. And here's the thing: she felt terrible. Her name is Tanya, and Tanya is a dear family friend. And Tanya, if you ever watch this, I don't blame you, and I have no problem. And to be quite honest with you, I like the story, but for her at that moment, she was mortified. She took off. She went to the bathroom, and I felt sick. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't go chase after her, but I had to wait for her to come back. And
Did
of
she at
course,
least get a picture of the ring between her boobs?
I never, to be quite honest with you, I never asked to see the picture,
I'd like to see that.
and I have never seen it. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, so this was my other original question before that incredible story came up. But now you're not a jewelry guy, so I'm sure I'm going to know your answer. But I've always wondered that too, because they're so cumbersome, right? And they're so big, and every year in every sport they just get bigger and bigger. They're obnoxious as far as trying to wear them around. Do you wish that there was maybe even a secondary one, or originally they were just way more understated, so you could wear it without, like you could just have it on like a glorified wedding band almost, just as a reminder to yourself, and there you wouldn't be telling the whole world every time you pulled your hand out.
It's an interesting thing. So I believe that we were offered, and I think any champion or player that wins the championship through the jewelry companies, they do. I could have bought. I'm cheap, guys. I'm cheap. So I could have bought a second ring that was, more of a pseudo ring with cubic zirconia, whatever the diamonds are, the fake diamonds. I probably could have bought one of those, maybe a tad smaller, and had it. And I think that's actually a good move. And maybe that's my next move, because I can still call the jewelry company and have them probably make me one. To be quite honest with you, I know I won. I'm so proud that I was a part of it. I don't need the ring to remind myself. I know it in my own head. To be quite honest, it too shall pass, guys. So yeah, I definitely go back to these moments, and when you're having a moment, a tough time or whatever, you think back like, okay, this is when I was a champ. But Brad's 53 years old now, and I was 36 at the time, and I would say that when you ask me, like, hey, Brad, how are you feeling? I still feel like I'm that same 36-year-old. Like I do. I don't look the same. My hair's gray and wiry and not brown and curly anymore. I have a silver beard, maybe 15 pounds overweight. Everything's changed. But when I think of the Stanley Cup and I watch the playoffs, I remember myself back call it the glory days. And I'm going to hang on to that and cling on to that. My own image of myself is that man. And around that time with my children, when I was really like, when I think of myself, that's who I see in the mirror. Although it's very different than the guy I'm actually staring at.
Seventh Fan Brewing crack open the taste of victory with our hockey-centric brews. Introducing the Penalty Box Pilsner and the Instigator IPA. Created for hardcore hockey fans just in time for the playoffs. Get out, get a six-pack, grab a couple kegs. Check out the seventhfanbrewing.com with locations in the Pacific Northwest, coming soon to Canada and across other areas in the Pacific Northwest. Seventh Fan Brewing, your beer partner. Well, that's awesome, man. Listen, I got to tell, there's a couple great points out of that. Chris, great bringing up those two key questions because they ended up being some great stories. So thank you. That was awesome. So Maisie, listen, I'll tell you, at that golf tournament we were at in Arizona, I flew I flew with my ring. The moment I went to that golf course, that ring came off and was staying at my hotel. I would never wear a ring that did not even meet half of the people in that room of 30 ex NHL guys. So I get that. I think, and the story of how I broke, crazy to me, that impact. And I know a bunch of NHL alum have had rings. They've had modified rings made that don't have the diamonds, but they look exactly the same. And they've given them to family and friends, or they will use it as, a ring that they travel around with. So if you lose it, you've got another one. It's no big deal. It has no value like the one that you've won. The point, I think, when you wear a ring or have an event like the Stanley Cup, it is for the others, the other people around you, your brother, to show that the intense proudness that he had of you winning that, a thing that is not achievable by most mortal people. Like, it is something that, we've all played street hockey and played games where in our head we have scoring the overtime goal or winning game 7, right? Which the Oilers and the Panthers are about to do. But that ring sets that standard that we all would love to achieve. In a better world, we would be that person, but we're not, right? So I think that's the beauty of what you have. And obviously you're such a great guy and a humble guy, but I think that the people around you would benefit from that journey.
So when you say that, Rocco, so there's two guys that jump out at me right now, and there's more than that. But Gary Leeman won a Stanley Cup with the Montreal Canadiens 1993. And Mike Krushelnyski. And Mike has won 4 Stanley Cups, 3 as a player, I believe, and 1 as a coach with the Detroit Red Wings. They every time that we've ever done any charity events, hockey, golf, whatever, both those guys bring their rings, and they're always a hit. And they always say to me, and they have for 10 years, get your head out of your ass, Brad. Get your ring fixed. Bring your ring, because it's not about you, it's about everyone else, and you're being really selfish. And I understand, I hear that. Because when I watch them, I see the joy and in the interaction that ring, the conversation that comes up. And it's not in my own head, it's not about me. And it's not even when I'm watching them, it's not about Gary or Mike, I don't know, like puffing their chest out and being, these outlandish figures that, just care about themselves. That's not it. Actually, I admire them for doing it. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm stubborn. I just haven't fixed it. And I also told you I'm cheap, so it's probably I haven't fixed it or paid for it. But I do recognize that it's about others, and I probably should do that. And that's probably why I'm going to get myself a fake one. I think today I'm going to make up my mind. I'm going to get or an imitation one. I don't fake imitation.
Yeah.
And for you, Rocco, you being an Italian, I get it, because you wear your ring on your pinky finger and you're a made man, and there's something more to it.
Yeah, there's a thing about the ring. Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
I mean, Brad, Rocco and I don't know, but it just speaks to anyone's life. It's whatever your normal is, right? I mean, everything seems normal. Extraordinary things, you don't take them for granted and you appreciate them. But to Rocco's point, I mean, you're working on a level, you're in a percentile of the population genetically that is capable of doing something. Obviously there is mountains of hard work to go along with it too, but the combination of all those things, that is an incredibly rare combination, right? So it's like, I totally can see your perspective where you're like, yeah, it's just a part, it's a story in your life. Like we all have stories in our life. I mean, shit, I played in the Paris Summer Games this weekend, and I won a silver medal, and I drove out of the parking lot before they even given them away, because it's like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I get where you're just like, yeah, it's just another thing that happened. It's just the things that happen to you in your life compared to the rest of us are extraordinary. But to you, they're, again, you don't take them for granted, but they seem a lot more ordinary, right? Like if I walked into an NHL locker room, I would be shaking, but you would feel most at home there. If I get out on a pair of skates, I'm like, you're probably more comfortable on skates than you're in a pair of running shoes. So it's just like, I get how, I understand how you could feel that way. It's just, yeah, it's a story in your life, and it's something that happened to you.
But first of all, sorry, Chris, if you walked into an NHL dressing room, you'd be arrested or dragged out by security, I would suspect, right? Pretty quick, just like anybody else.
Or they would be throwing me laundry to do, right? Or they'd be like,
some laundry. But go to that point. Look, the ring represents the achievement. It's just like the Stanley Cup, when it is now given to an NHL player that has won the Stanley Cup, or a representative of that team who has access to the cup for that 24-hour window or period, wherever they live in the world or wherever they want to bring it. That is for everybody else. It is not for, I won the Stanley Cup. You won the Stanley Cup. You can lift it over your head. I can't. I've never touched it. I wouldn't even touch it in the Hockey Hall of Fame. But to see it, right? And that would be what that ring represents, I would suspect. So get it fixed, get a replica, keep the fixed one pretty, and keep it in a safe or safety deposit box for your legacy and your kids. Because you're right, you did win a Stanley Cup. Nobody's ever going to take that away. But the joy that you can give others is part of that legacy that you will create.
And right? Get that picture from Tandy. You deserve that picture, Mayday.
It's a great point, guys, and point noted. I do procrastinate a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to do anything with it, because it's been my normal, like you say, Chris, for the last whatever it's been. It's been 18 years since we won. 18 years ago, we won the Stanley Cup, which is crazy.
Corey Perry's playing. Corey Perry's still playing.
And for Corey, gosh, I'm rooting for him. I was talking about McDavid. Corey Perry, think about what this guy's done and what kind of addition he's been to. Imagine, gets to the final with the Montreal Canadiens, who had no chance going into the playoffs. Probably shouldn't have beat Toronto that first round. And then they go on and they make a run right to the Stanley Cup final. The Dallas Stars, he's there. He's with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now he's obviously twice with the Edmonton Oilers. It's amazing what Corey Perry's been able to do. And it's amazing that the Chicago Blackhawks, and whatever happened there a couple years ago, that he was kind of cast off and, go figure out your life. Good for Edmonton to actually take a chance on this guy, because this guy's a superstar. He's an Art Ross winner. He's an unbelievable hockey player. He's won at every single level. He's an incredible friend and teammate to not only myself and my teammates, but clearly the guys he continues to play with. And he's scoring big goals in the playoffs. This guy's a difference maker. It's so cool. It's so cool that actually have that. And I don't talk to Corey, on the phone or anything like that. He's so busy doing his thing, but as a former teammate, sitting back watching him continue to play, it's been a lot of fun, a lot of joy, and I'm not the only one, because I've run into some of my other teammates, and we all say the same thing about Corey Perry. First of all, his nickname's the Worm. He plays like that. We talk about the glue or the gel guys on a hockey team. In most cases, it's the third and fourth liners and the guys that are in and out of the lineup. Corey Perry is a superstar, and he's a glue guy. He brings everybody together. He's a cool dude.
Mayday, listen to this, fellas. I was just looking at this here, Brad, that when you played with him in Anaheim, I think he would have been about 20 or 21, right?
Yeah.
Call him 20 years old. He had 17 goals that year. He's 40 years old. He has 19 goals this year. That year in the playoffs, 21 games. So after they won the cup, he had 6 goals. And this year haven't even started the finals, and he's got 7. And he's fucking amazing. 40 years old. It's astonishing.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Go ahead, Maisie.
No, I was just saying it's amazing what he's doing, and he's doing it the same way. Now, maybe not as much speed and flash as when he was playing with Getzlaf. Like, and I was actually his left winger for a period during the Stanley Cup run, and when we won with Getzy and pairs. Um, I just love it, what he's doing. And you know what? Look at the passion that this guy has. Like, the one other factor, and I just want to throw this out to this upcoming series. Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett, the two tougher players, certainly
Glue guys.
the glue guys and the energy guys, and certainly they're the players that play. Like, they're unreal. You're going to notice two names in this series if Edmonton has any chance of beating them, outside of the big guys. Evander Kane, like you're speaking of, Evander Kane. If there's going to be a fist fight in this Stanley Cup final, I hope there's more than one. You're going to see two guys from Edmonton in it. You got Evander Kane, who's tough as nails and would beat up either one of those two in Florida. I'm not saying who wins or who's a better hockey player. Who's tougher? Evander Kane is tougher than Tkachuk, and Evander Kane's tougher than Bennett. And that's hard to say because Sam Bennett's been really good. The other guy is Trent Frederick, who they picked up late in the season. Trent Frederick from the Boston Bruins. Trent Frederick is a tough player, and I would imagine if I'm in there or if somebody like myself is around the Edmonton Oilers, these guys have to be a factor in this series, standing up. It could be an Ekblad, could be a Seth Jones, but Trent Frederick and Evander Kane, two important pieces in Edmonton.
I agree. When you mentioned, the glue guys, one of the things with those key aspects is culture, right? That builds culture. Corey Perry, he's got great hockey sense. I mean, he's like a hockey savant because look at what he's doing. At an older age, he's actually scoring more goals than he did when he was 21 in the Stanley Cup run, right? So, but those glue guys builds culture to the point that you talked about earlier. Culture wins based on how we do and how we behave all the time, right? That's what makes the Panthers so good. And I totally agree with Frederick and Kane. That's why I'm hoping that Kane just lights it up. I mean, I'm rooting for those guys. I'm rooting for Perry. Obviously the whole aspect. It's there's so many cool storylines that we talked about that just has such great potential. Great.
And then there's the storyline if Florida somehow wins this. What a team. The stories that you can come out of South Florida with, but the way they won too. They literally took the will away from the last two teams they played. Game 5 and 7 against Toronto, they absolutely obliterated the Maple Leafs, which was sad to watch. Chris and you and I, as everybody, it was astonishing. But then they did the same thing, although Carolina in Game 4 came up with an unbelievable effort to actually win a game. But the first 3 games against Carolina, Florida dominated, and I watched the shell of a Carolina Hurricane team play. At the end of Game 3, they skated off the ice, and it was like, okay, they gave up, which they didn't, and good for them, and a testament to Brendan Moore and his team. But what Florida's doing, I think it's amazing. It really is. It's impressive. And again, Alexander Barkov, people don't give this guy enough credit. This guy's a friggin' superstar. Like, he's a franchise player. And how many franchise players in the NHL? Guys, how many guys would you designate as a franchise player? I would say there's less than 15.
Yeah.
There's less than 15 in the NHL, I would guess. And Barkov is definitely in the top 5.
Well, 15, and how many of them are playing in this series, right?
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
So, like, to your point, there's just not enough to go around, right? More franchises than franchise players.
Yeah.
Agreed. Wow. I mean, this is a good one. So we've got the group is kind of broken on who we think is going to win, but it's going to be great. I can't wait till we say, boys, let's drop the puck on that. That's going to be tomorrow. The game's going to go, and I'm sure we're going to have some texting back and forth with the odd meme going back. Nonetheless, right? Any final thoughts, comments, anything else you guys want to wrap up about, or something you would specifically like to talk about? I would digress for a moment and not have to mention that. Look, I from the goalie union, what is Weeks? He always says he represents the goaltenders union. Pete DeBoer pulling Ottinger out in that game. First of all, I think the timeout. He goes back into his net and calls him back. I thought that was absolute BS. Right? Otter's your best goaltender. He's got another 7 years left on his contract. He's going to be there a lot longer than DeBoer is. But anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there. Any quick comments on that? As a goalie guy, I felt like, absolute crap for him being pulled out of. They have to get through 5 guys before they get to goalie all the time, right? Was he fantastic? He was amazing getting up to that series, right? I mean, the Oilers are a wagon. So I don't know. Your thoughts, anybody?
Chris?
I mean, we don't know what DeBoer was actually. Well, I'll tell you what. DeBoer might want to take a little breather before his post-game pressers too, right? He doesn't mind just getting out there and letting it rip, which is what we all love. But every time the guy does it, you're like, ooh, boy. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. 2-on-2 shots, he might be thinking, okay, I'll take him out. He'll sit here. And then next TV timeout, I'll put him back in. But, I mean, hey, listen. When you're playing, here's the thing. In my opinion, and I'll say this about Bobrovsky as well. When you're playing the Oilers in a series, both your goalies are going to play. It's musical goalies one night anyways. Like, that means Bob too. Bob will have his ball cap on before this series is over. I promise you that. I mean, they light people up. So, I mean, what was it the right thing to do? I don't know. But as far as fishing them out of the net when you're playing the Oilers, that's going to happen. So, with Stolarz last year, and I can't even think of the Panthers backup right now, but I mean, he better stay loose because he's going to get in there, whether it's a blowout or something. But I just think that's life when you're playing the Oilers. Both your goalies, it's musical goalies.
You know what you're talking about? We were talking about Corey Perry, about going to the Stanley Cup Final with multiple teams and being able to bring that energy and that culture. Is whatever that je ne sais quoi is with Corey Perry. Peter DeBoer has that as well. This guy coached New Jersey to the Stanley Cup Finals, San Jose, Dallas. He was a great coach with the Florida Panthers for a while, Vegas Golden Knights. This guy's a winner. This guy wins big games. This guy's been a big part of it. He's got a great staff that's with him as well. I don't know what happened there because Jake Ottinger is so important to that team in Dallas. So much, it hurt him so much and embarrassed him so much that I believe he's asked for a trade out of Dallas. And I don't know if that's, hearsay or if that's real fact. But as a coach, and a lot of times, and I don't know if it's useful, but a lot of times you pull your goaltender to send a message to the players in front of them. And maybe that's what it was. Or maybe there was a comment under a player's breath about something that maybe there's something brewing there, conversation, an argument, whatever, of who you were, what you were supposed to be. I don't know what the story is, and I don't necessarily need to know. I feel bad for Jake Ottinger because they got to the conference final because of his play, and then he gets pulled as though that he's like the scapegoat. That's not fair to him. But as a coach, this guy's trying to pull and push every button possible to have his team play. And in my guess, knowing Peter DeBoer, I would think that it was about sending a message to the team. Basically, get your act together, get your head out of your ass, and let's if we're gonna lose, let's lose going, go down with a fight. However, within 1 minute of that change, Edmonton scored on Casey DeSmith, I believe, right? So, and when they scored like within I think it was a minute later, maybe the little experiment by putting Ottinger back in, it didn't work out. Unfortunately, these are decisions that bold people have to make. But guess what? You can't win championships unless you're bold and unless you're willing to go and do things that other people aren't willing to do. And I see that in Peter DeBoer, and I see that in these players, and certainly in the champions.
And to Brad's point, I mean, what DeBoer is, was he 7-0 in Game 7s? And Rocco, I hear you. You're a card-carrying member of the union, but God bless you guys. You're a pinch on the sensitive side sometimes as well. I mean, don't forget when Mario Tremblay said, "Oh, I'm just going to leave Pat Roy in here let him get lit up by a Christmas tree. And then Pat Roy walked off and said, I'm packing up and I'm leaving. So, if he leaves Ottinger in there and it becomes point night for the Oilers, is he like, why are you embarrassing me by leaving me in? So it's like the coach is in a delicate spot there, right? And to Brad's point, I mean, especially at this point in the season, you've played every card you have as a coach. There's not many buttons left to push. I'm sure he was just thinking, I got to do something.
It just smelt wrong. It smelt bad, and I feel bad for the goalie because Ottinger, he's a big reason why they are where they're at. And I would hope to think that they can resolve in whatever turmoil and problems in the relationship. I hope it goes forward. But at the end of the day, it's not for the faint of heart. It's professional sports, and you know what? If you're going to cry yourself to sleep every night, then that's your problem. You got to get tougher, mentally tougher, figure it out. And if you don't want to be in that situation, then win more games. Don't play on a team that loses like that. I know that sounds shitty, but it's true.
That's how winners think, man. I mean, I get it. I get it. I just think like there's a big difference between 8 goals getting lit up, with Patrick Roy and a Stanley Cup playoff game where 2 goals are scored in 2 shots. I get that. Maybe and they had a timeout, right? So get a reset. Anyways, that's just me. I do want to jump into 2 other topics real quick. One is I want to do a shout out for the London Knights, the Memorial Cup champions. I think fantastic. They got a great program. Just good to see. And then also, I would be remiss without saying something about Team USA in the Worlds. Swayman had a tough start and stood on his head and came out strong. So that's awesome on that end. Why don't we kind of just wrap it up for the day, and we can catch up on the next episode of our pod. We've got a couple dropping out. So Chris,
see you, Rocco.
Good to see you as always.
Good man. Mayday's out there in the universe somewhere. See you, boys.
Mayday's hey, all right. Hey, buddy.
Fellas, great seeing you guys.
All right. I love you guys. Take care and keep in touch. We'll chat soon.
See you, boys.
Okay. See ya.
Bye.